So now we move into this weird, kind of ephemeral area. Like I can understand testing for ApoB and grip strength and all this sort of thing. How are you going to create an accurate way to evaluate somebody's psychological or emotional well-being to get a baseline before introducing interventions?
This was the hardest of all 10 truths, to find a tool that can accurately measure that and encompass all of the various aspects of emotional health, psychological well-being, whether that be self-esteem or purpose or optimism, relationships.
You can't just blow into a tube and have a number.
I wish. So I had to dig pretty deep here and consulted a number of different people in psychology and psychiatrists, and came across a tool called the Flourishing Scale, which was produced by a psychologist. He went by the name Dr. Happiness, actually. And this is the most robust, I guess, clinically validated tool that I could find. It's not the only one that can act as a relatively simple way to get a gauge on your psychological well-being, psychological resources and strengths. There's 8 questions on this Flourishing Scale, and for each of those 8 questions, I have it in front of me. I can read out a couple of them so you can kind of get a better feel for it. For each of the 8 questions, you either strongly agree, slightly agree, all the way up to strongly disagree. Mm-hmm. And I'll read all 8. I lead a purposeful and meaningful life. My social relationships are supportive and rewarding. I am engaged and interested in my daily activities. I actively contribute to the happiness and well-being of others. So being of service.
Debatable.
I am competent and capable in the activities that are important to me. I am a good person and live a good life.
Everybody thinks they're a good person.
I am optimistic about my future. People respect me.
That's a good one.
And so, that's the tool that we've used to kind of assess this, and the maximum score you can get is 56. If you score 7 on all 8 questions.
Because each one of these is, you score it 1 to 5.
1 to 7.
Oh, 1 to 7.
And there's 8 questions.
Okay.
So maximum score is 56. And why these questions? Why relationships, self-esteem, purpose, optimism, service? Well, there's a whole lot of research that underpins that. We could speak of a number of different studies. The one that maybe people are familiar with is the Harvard study of adult development, which looked at a group of students from Harvard and tracked them for 80 years. And they were interested in what were the greatest predictors of happiness and longevity, and more than money or fame. And money was important, actually, but after a certain level of about $75,000 income, that might be a little higher today.
Yeah, probably.
But up to a certain level, after that, it wasn't a great predictor. Above all of those, and also above traditional risk factors like LDL cholesterol and even smoking, the quality of their relationships were the greatest predictor of their happiness and their longevity. And Robert Waldinger, who is the director of that study, he's very famous for a quote where he says, "Loneliness kills." And that is often mistaken for solitude being deleterious, but I don't actually think that's the case. There's some research looking at how much time you spend by yourself versus with others. And certainly spending time by yourself can be healthy and appears to be healthy, but if people are spending more than 75% of their time by themselves, they're significantly more likely to experience loneliness. Mm-hmm. So these are, some of the science that has informed the decision to use a scale like this that's, measuring some of these questions are related to relationships. There's other questions in here that are related to service. And there's some incredible research looking at the differences between giving or getting, and looking at the differences in how our brain is activated.
Yeah.
And, you see when someone is giving something, the reward center of the brain, it lights up in both of those contexts. But also the stress level of the brain goes down.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about that piece.
And so there's this really interesting MRI research that's shown that, which is then corroborated by population level research, where you look at large populations of people and you use different questions to determine, how frequently someone is of service to others around them. And you see that people who are of service to others are less likely to die during the follow-up period. And on the flip side, you see that people that are highly stressed have much higher risk of premature death. But the interesting thing is, people that are highly stressed, that are of service, do not have increased risk of mortality.
Oh, wow.
So
that's an interesting ripple.
So there's something about giving and being of service to others that seems to attenuate stress. And I don't think it's been fully elucidated exactly what's happening there, but there would be a physiological explanation, and there are researchers debating as to whether that's sort of mediated through inflammation or other physiological processes. But point being that being of service seems to be incredibly important when it comes to our psychological resilience, well-being, and so that's something that's evaluated within the Flourishing Scale, and that's why it was included in that scale specifically. And then in our 12-week challenge, we have a few things in there that hopefully inspire people.
Yeah.